the offensive line, and some other guys that have seen some meaningful playing time. So it's like you say, I mean, they've kind of formed the basis of this team, and the team graduated Ryan Hart, who had a fantastic year. But a lot of these guys, Joe Hernandez, and Tyler Monto had, some meaningful snaps last year. And, it was a really good football team last year, too. It'll be interesting to be a fly on the wall, too, down at York Catholic. And I think that game's at York Catholic tonight. Littlestown and York Catholic kicking things off there. That York Catholic undefeated as well. And, certainly I think they were the co-champions of the division last year. So there's a lot on the line there for those two teams.
So you never want to look at a team and say it's going to be an easy game. But Tech is not an extremely strong opponent most years. You never want to take anybody for granted. We're looking to say, oh, shot do well tonight. But a lot of that is depending upon attitude and stuff like that. Littlestown's going into the game tonight. They know they're playing a tough opponent. Yeah. You never know when you're playing a tough opponent how that's going to turn out. You never know what type of thing can happen to make them up with a key injury. There can be a lot of things happen in games like that. So it is a little bit of an advantage for Delone going into next week. You got to forget about next week right now and just concentrate on what you have right in front of you now.
And it'll be interesting to see what a lot of teams do tonight, because like everywhere else in the East Coast, it's basically rained here for an entire week. So how well have the fields taken water? And, we're fortunate to have a brief break from that. It's still very humid, and, we're awaiting Hurricane Florence coming up the coast, but it's dry, but the field's still wet. I know there were some soft spots in the field, and it'll be interesting to see if that plays into this at all tonight.
That's going to be everywhere. Yeah. This field drains. We've been really fortunate. In my tenure here, they went through and they redid this field. They crowned it. The field is slightly crowned, and what it does is it allows drainage off of the field. It eliminates some of the spots. But when you have rain like we've had,
That was Delone Catholic senior Emma Roeder with the national anthem and the Delone Catholic alma mater. We're just a couple of minutes away here from kickoff in the opener of the YAIAA Division III. The captains out here to do the recreation of the coin toss. And Coach, what's behind that? At the high school level, they did the actual coin toss about 15 minutes ago outside the visitors' locker room, and obviously the captains, the head coaches were part of that. And what's the thought behind doing that before, and then this is just kind of a recreation?
It allows coaches before the game to reset and prepare their special teams, their kickoff, receiving kickoff teams. That's really the point of that. It also gives the referees an opportunity to go through a lot of the game things that you need to talk about. Captains, keeping the game under control, and talking with the captains about instructions and responsibilities that the captains have during the course of the game. So more time to work through this.
And that makes a lot of sense, especially at the smaller, or the levels of the smaller schools, the A, the AA schools that have fewer guys, and everybody is playing on every team. I remember kind of what a chore that was to get everybody out there on all their assigned special teams and everything else, because some guys never come off the field. And we
just a little bit of time pre-game to go through, especially through your special teams, your kickoff team, and those kids know in the locker room exactly. I'm on the kickoff team, so they know to get out of there. I'm not saying at the last minute, hey, you're on the kickoff team. So everybody knows when they come out.
Tony Espinoza will kick it off for the Squires. He's got 8 touchbacks in the first 3 games. It's been a real weapon as far as field position for the Squires, and a single man deep, and these numbers are tough for York Tech. And we've got a whistle. Got an offside against the Squires, so they'll back it up 5 and kick it again. That number 1 out there, Israel Capo, is the deep man for the Spartans.
The nice thing about your kicker here, gets the ball up high, and it allows the kickoff team to get down underneath the ball and hold the opponent down. We always try to hold it, on a play like this. We would like to hold the opponent inside the 20 or 25-yard line. So when you get a high kick like that, it allows you to get down and hold them down in that area. They have to go a long way.
So they're going to try it again here. Get the whistle. The Squires kicking it out towards 6th Street. It's a low line drive kick, takes a bounce, and that one is going to go in the end zone. And Capo got lucky there. It kind of lost some momentum and almost didn't get across the goal line.
He was going to stop. Stand there watching it. That's one thing the deep man cannot do. He's got to keep an eye on it.
So York Tech with the ball, first down and 10 at its own 20-yard line. Squires coming out with through fairly extensive research, found out this week is a program record defensive touchdown scored in 4 consecutive games, dating back to the Hanover game last year. So scoring almost as many points as some offenses have. But York Tech coming out here, quarterback in the shotgun, takes a step back, throws over the middle, and it is complete for a first down. Quarterback is number 17, Ryan Gibson, and Kaishan Garan is the receiver. He's got it for a first down for the Spartans.
One came out that time, they were playing man coverage. They were Texas on the super slant pattern.
Gibson in the shotgun again between 2 running backs. High snap, pulls it down. He's rolling to his right. He's got pressure, and he's brought down there. Marquise Sweet.
the difference that time, Delone dropped back into a zone, and it just took the quarterback just a little bit too long to read the coverage. And by that time, Delone was in on him and caused the sack.
Second down and long now. Ball spotted at the 27-yard line for York Tech. Pair of receivers split to the near side. Better snap this time. Quick gets it out here into the flat, but overshoots his receiver. Bring up third down and long.
His run support.
So after a quick one-play first down, now York Tech facing third down and long in its own territory. Just underway here. First division game of the year for York Tech and Delone Catholic. Little misdirection in the backfield. Squires' defensive front not falling for it and indicating that the ball's out. And it's going to be recovered by the Squires. So an early turnover. Squires with, I think, their 13th takeaway of the year. And it's first down and 10. Squires in business inside their own 25, or inside the York Tech 25.
That's a stat I always really looked at, this turnover. So many times, your turnovers are indicating how many wins you come up with. And, Delone's way ahead of that right now because they're 13 turnovers there. They're way ahead.
First play, Logan Brown outside around the left side. He is wrestled down, still in bounds, but he's going to be close to the first down.
And they run the buck sweetly. They pulled both guards and got him out in front of the running back. Did a nice job blocking, sealing the inside, and then they pick up a yard.
Squires came into this game averaging almost 9.5 yards per carry as a team, and Brown 326 yards rushing in 3 games. This time, Brady's going to fake it to Brown, rolls out. He's got Monto, and it is complete. That's a touchdown. Tyler Monto from the 15.
That was nothing more than the line. The quarterback takes the bump sweep, rolled out. Fullback slid out in the flat. Gave a little toss to the fullback, and he did the rest of the way into the touchdown.
It's going to be Marcel Malvone as the kicker out of the hold of Kevin Mowry. Malvone did most of the kicking last year. Decent snap. It's a good hold. The kick is up, and it is good. So at 10:16 to go in the first quarter, Delone Catholic 7, York Tech nothing. And certainly can't ask for a much better start from that out of the Squires.
You better capitalize on a situation like that. So I think it's always important when you're playing something like that. You put your head up real quick.
Yeah.
It is a great benefit to you because they have a tendency to, there's not a lot of real confidence in others. You get ahead of them early and you're in business.
Yeah, so Espinoza is going to tee it up this time and see the change up in the kickoff formation. It looks like everybody's got to be bunched within 5 yards of the ball here to start off. They're doing that at a lot of levels now, I guess, as concussion prevention. This time it's high end over end kick. Capo fields it inside his 5. He's got the right side and is shoved out of bounds at about the 33. So York Tech come back at it for the second possession.
See, the kickoff is set up. The kickoff is on cash. And the purpose of that is you're trying to squeeze your opponent into the right sideline, their right sideline. That time, people coming down the court on that side didn't contain. It allowed the running back to get outside. Or it looks like That's what they're trying to do with the kickoff, is squeeze their opponent into the sideline, use that as a 12th person.
Well, and the thing that Espinoza has done so well to make that a weapon is he's done a good job keeping the ball between the sideline and the hash and not kicking it out of bounds this year. So it's an illegal block in the back against the Spartans, pushing them back inside their own 10. Gibson hands off up the middle, and not a lot of room there. About 5-6 black shirts. Sean Kroner credited with the stop. Looks like they're going to give him about a half a yard on the carry. So it'll be 2nd down and 9.5, 9 3/4. Gibson's going to throw. No drop. It's batted and nearly intercepted. That's Logan Brown out there, and it looked like...
Actually, he was trying to throw to the slot receiver that time on a little hook tap. And the throw was a little high. It was tipped and almost picked off by the corner. It was tipped over to the widest receiver.
Yeah, it looked like Joe Hernandez got a hand on that, and Logan Brown almost reeled it in, but it'll be 3rd down and 9 now for the Spartans. Still going with that wide formation. And this time it's bounced. Oh, no, he did catch it, and it's going to be complete and out to about the 19-yard line. That's Bruin Van Carson on the catch.
I think the corner on this side was looking for 6 on an interception. He got there a little late. Allowed the receiver to make the catch and turn up field, getting a little bit of a gain on that.
It's going to be 4th down at about 6, forcing the Spartans to punt. Brown is at the York Tech 49-yard line. And we're going to have a penalty, and it actually may do well for York Tech that happened because it was a poor snap. False start on the Spartans. So that'll back it up to the 14-yard line. A little better snap right to him. It's a high punt. Brown fields it. He's straight up the middle. And there he goes. Logan Brown, touchdown, Squires. Yeah.
The other team did not get downfield. The Delone defensive front was holding them up, and they never got downfield and allowed Brown to catch actually short punt and then just find his way right through the kicking team.
And we've got a penalty flag. It's a sideline warning against York Tech, and that is the second time that Brown's returned a special teams touchdown this year. He had an 85-yard kick return, and now he's got a punt return on his resume. Good snap. Good hold. Kick is up, and it is good. With 8:34 to go, it's Delone Catholic 14, York Tech nothing.
Wasn't sure that one. That one didn't go true through the middle.
No.
A little bit left that time. But, it's up inside the poles. It's still good.
So it looks like, at the moment anyway, we're playing most of this game down to our right at the Moose end of the field. See if York Tech can do anything to flip the field positions. Obviously, turnovers, as you alluded to, is a huge predictor of how well a team will do, but field position is another one.
I've watched over the years. Those cases, if you were on the plus side, each one you were over on the plus side, usually waited to the end. So it's a side look at. I always noticed that was something that showed up in all the.
It's a low line drive. They let it roll, and it goes out of bounds at about the 11-yard line. So there, we talked about it the last time, and that time he kicks it out of bounds. So York Tech with better field position due to the illegal procedure.
Here we can't tell.
Right.
He touched it. The ball was back down there. brought up here.
And obviously, they didn't give him an opportunity to catch that as low as it was kicked. But I know somebody who used to say nothing good happens when a kickoff touches the ground. Back in the shotgun for Gibson. Back in the split backs formation again. This time it's going to be a handoff. Running back's got the right side and a pickup out across the 45 to about the 46.
They got a nice gain that time. Picked up about 10, 11 yards.
Officially going to spot it at the 45-yard line. So it's what Tony refers to as find the line. High snap, pulled down by Gibson. Quick throw and nearly intercepted by two different guys. Dylan Cadis got a hand on it, and that was Logan Brown's second.
They're trying to work with a short passing game, and Delone is playing tight coverage on that, and it's making it difficult for York Tech to come up with these short passes here. They're going to have to do something to loosen Delone's coverage up a little bit.
Gibson hands to Rosado. Now, there's a penalty flag down. That was Rivalry Nieves on the carry. We'll see what that flag's about.
Usually that flag's for holding. When that referee throws the flag, it's usually a holding penalty.
And that is what it'll be. It'll be holding against York Tech. Now, obviously, in doing preparation for these broadcasts, we're not like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman watching film all week. But do you think that with the quarterback being in the shotgun, he's not taking any drop at all. He's kind of throwing flat-footed. Do you think that's an adjustment based on what the Squires have done defensively, or is that just what they kind of do?
I think that's pretty much what they do. But I don't think that allows the quarterback to get into a rhythm with what he's doing. He should be taking maybe a short little drop and to get his feet set.
And this time it's a counter, but Squires' defensive front does a good job staying home. Stops that for minimal gain. Third down and long again for York Tech.
But like what we were talking about, with what's going on, he's trying to get rid of the ball so quick. He's not setting his feet. And when you're not setting your feet, you're not accurate throwing the ball. And that's what's going on right now. That's why I say if he'd take a little bit of a drop to get his feet set, he'd be more accurate as a passer.
This time he does drop back a few steps, rolls out to his right to try to elude some pressure, and he nearly completed it to the umpire, but it's going to be fourth down for the Spartans and force another punt.
You know, I hate to say that, but he could have been called for intentional grounding because there was no receiver there. I mean, Delone would have declined the penalty, but still, there was a Delone player and the referee there. That was it. When he just pitched the ball away.
Fourth down and 21. Low snap again on one bounce, and he is running around back there. No rush from the Squires. It's a decent punt. It's going to hit about midfield and roll out of bounds at the Squires 45. So we'll have a play run inside Squires territory for the first time tonight.
Yeah, that punt actually made it to the first down marker. They're having some problems with their special teams. The snap is not very good. The punter, I'm sure Delone is probably just taking it easy on the punter. They could probably block the punt anytime they wanted.
Squires with a tight formation, a single receiver out to the left. It's going to be a handoff to Joe Hernandez off the right tackle. It's going to gain about 5 on that play, maybe 6. You know, it's funny you talk about punts. One of the craziest things I've ever seen when I was working for Gettysburg College, we were up at Muhlenberg one Saturday. It was about a 35, 40-mile-an-hour wind in the punter's face, and the punt went up and went backwards because the wind was blowing that hard. This time it's a give straight up the middle. That is Hernandez, and he is into the secondary. Has it broken inside the 10, wrestled down there. First and goal. Actually, it's Tyler Monto on the carry inside the 10-yard line, and the Squires knocking on the door again.
Yeah, that's it. That's the inside veer trap out of the wing tee, and they just run a little quick trap in there, and it went wide open and allowed Hernandez just to take off down the field. And the safety should have been in the area, but he wasn't. The person that caught him was actually the corner. And
this time it's a give to Brown. He's looking for a hole on the left side. Still on his feet. He is going to be
in the end zone.
He's going to break through and in. Logan Brown with the touchdown from 9 yards out.
And that once again was just a buck sweep. Run to the tight wing side. And Brown just did a very good job of busting the tackle. There was two guys that were that had grabbed hold of him, and he just ran through the arm tackles and went into the end zone.
Yeah, it looked like his progress was stopped there for a second, and then all of a sudden he broke out. There was nobody with him.
Yeah, he's a tough runner. Not only does he have good speed and he runs well, he's able to break tackles. And you get those extra yards you need also.
Malbone with another good kick, making it 21-0. Delone Catholic with 6:06 to go in the first quarter.
Well, it looks like Delone's staying on the same scoring schedule that they've been on.
Yeah. Well, you're going to average 54. You got to get there somehow.
Well, you're going to get more than 54 at the rate you're going, but it could be that you're going to start seeing substitutes playing, maybe even here in the first half.
Espinoza to kick off for the Squires again.
And hopefully this time he'll get a better kick than he did last time. You don't like to give your opponent that up on the 35-yard line. It gives him a decent field position.
This time it's the high end over end kick, a little bit shorter, going to be fielded at about the 10-yard line. A lot of room to run there, but good coverage by the Fires. Brings down the return man at the 30-yard line. Ryan Myers credited with the stop.
Yeah, it's good to see that you have a lot of people coming off the field. They're not necessarily starters. They're able to contribute in special teams, and that's how you get a lot of game experience for your younger players. Give them the opportunity to play on special teams, and then they're feeling part of contributing to victories and good play.
Tech spreading it out a little bit here. Gibson steps back. He's got time, throws it, and he overshoots everybody. Looked like maybe a miscommunication. He thought the receiver was going to go deep, and he kind of broke off the route.
Well, it looked like the quarterback was trying to use his eyes to open up a receiver, and he was looking to the right to his two receiver side, hoping that he could get a post pattern out of the split end on this side, and the corner didn't bite for it and had it very well covered.
This time it's going to be a handoff, and he's going to be tackled maybe after a yard gain. Seems to me that the Delone Catholic defense doing a really nice job of staying home and not falling for the misdirection at all.
Well, they've had two miscues where York Tech was able to get outside on Delone's left defensive side. That's been the only miscues that I've noticed on defense. Other than that, they're doing a very nice job. They're not falling for misdirection or anything like that.
A lot of people talk about staying on schedule, and the Spartans have not been able to do that tonight. They've been facing a lot of 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8. Makes it tough to pick up the first down offensively because it kind of limits your playbook. And here it's going to be back looking for the right edge of the offense, and another maybe yard gain. But it'll bring up 4th down and about 7 for York Tech.
Yeah, that was the sweep that they had some earlier success with. A lot of people didn't notice. He fumbled that ball a little bit, but he got it back himself. So
looked like somebody coming up from the inside for the Squires got a piece of his jersey and slowed him down a little bit, didn't allow him to get to the corner. Clock's running with about 4.5 minutes to go here in the first quarter. It's a nice punt. It's going to be muffed by Logan Brown, and York Tech is going to recover at the 39-yard line. You can't advance a muffed punt, but good heads-up play by the coverage man for York Tech. So now they're in Squires territory.
Yeah, the referee just broke his heart. He thought he had a touchdown. So
I could never really understand why you can't advance a muffed punt. I mean, there's got to be a reason for it, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions I have anymore with what they're doing. I mean, every time from the time I started playing football and up until the time I retired, offensive linemen were not able to push the running back downfield. And now they are.
Yeah.
That used to be a penalty. Now it's something everybody does.
Got a penalty flag. And it's going to be
Delone's offside.
Encroachment. Squires lined up off sides, it looks like. But, it's funny you bring that up because I remember being in college and USC, I think, was playing Texas at the time, and the big controversy with the Bush push. With I think it was Matt Leinart pushed Reggie Bush into the end zone.
Yeah.
Everybody had a fit about it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Now everybody does it.
Yeah. And it's going to be rushed right up the gut. Gibson broke down. It was Sean Croner on the sack, and that was a coverage sack as much as anything because he had time.
But there again is the same thing I was talking about. He's not getting any drop. There's not enough distance between him and the line of scrimmage. So it's less distance that the defensive line has to come to get the quarterback. If he would be taking a slight drop, he would have an extra second or so to read his coverages.
So now even after the penalty, it looks like that's about a 7-yard loss, bringing up 2nd down and 12. And it's going to be a give. They're looking to go back to that well with the sweep around the right side. And I don't think he got there again. Shoved out of bounds.
He might have got a yard or so. That was about it. But that's you're trying to find something that will work, and they've had a little bit of success. So they're coming back to it. But the bad part about it is the defense finds, you're going to run that play a lot, and they'll adjust it and thus make sure that play is not successful. You always got to have a play. We used to call them sister plays, a play that looks like it's one thing and does something else. And York Tech doesn't have that right now.
And this time he's going to try to keep it inside. Then nothing there. He tries to bounce it outside, but stopped for a loss. That's Schroeder again. And hear his name a lot over the PA. And York Tech going backwards again. 4th down and about 14.
Yeah, that looked like that time they were trying to run the ball a little bit more off tackle inside, looking to have the Delone's end get upfield and run underneath him. But the inside pursuit caught up with that very quickly. They're going to go for it on 4th down here.
And this time he does take a quick step back, and it's nearly intercepted by Dylan Cadis, but that'll be a turnover run down by the Spartans. So the muffed punt doesn't hurt the Squires, and it's still 21-0. Squires get the ball back with 2:56 to go here in the first quarter.
Yeah, I was wondering on that punt if the possibility that there was, maybe the wind kind of, knocked the ball down, but there's no wind. So it looked like Brown just misjudged that punt. So
the timing was all screwed up on that too, because it was a snap that bounced a couple of times, and the coverage men were kind of in his pocket until he got that. This time it's looking for the right tackle, bounces it outside. That is Hernandez. Big gain and a 3rd down. Having trouble telling the difference between 20 and 28 right now.
Yeah, they're not able to keep contain at all. The Delone's just running the ball to the tight wing side, and they're able to keep the contained man inside, get the guards outside, and that leaves the corner and the safety to come up and make plays, and the guards picking up at least one of them, and that's why you're getting these huge gains.
This time Brady rolls out to his left, pulls it down.
He's wide open.
He's got a man open. It's Logan Brown and nearly caught, but actually a good recovery by the defensive back to break that up and knock it out of his hands.
Yeah, the bad part about it was 84 had gone downfield, and the defender had tripped and fallen, and there was nobody within 20 yards of him. He was wide open. Quarterback, the quarterback has got to keep his eyes open to all three receivers, so that that should have been something was picked up, because the split end here was wide open. There was nobody even with him.
2nd down and 10. The give is right up the middle. That's a spin move out of Monto. Cuts back against the grain, and he's going to be in for the touchdown. 35 yards. Tyler Monto.
If you look at what's gone on, Delone's they've only run about 4 offensive plays. They run them right and left, but they're the same play. They're running either buck sweep or that was nothing more than the inside trap again. And the defense from York Tech has not adjusted to either one of those plays. And if you don't adjust, it's going to be a long evening.
Well, and the upside to that is Littlestown doesn't have anything to see on film then. That kick's blasted to the upright. That one's out on 6th Street. Good kick by Marcello Malbone. So with 2:29 to go in the first quarter, Delone Castle 28, York Tech nothing. And we do have the 35-point mercy rule in high school football, but it doesn't start until the second half.
Well,
so I would guess it won't be long until you see some wholesale substitutions. But what do you do as a coach here? I mean, you're working really hard to not embarrass you, but the varsity works hard to practice this week. Plus, you need to get ready for the game.
Delone's doing some of it. For instance, if you're watching on punts, they're not rushing the punter. That's one thing that you do. Other things that you do along those lines, for instance, on punts, you fair catch them, or you don't catch them, you just let them roll. You do things like that on kickoffs. You take the ball and you run the ball out of bounds, so that you're not running things up. I mean, we've had games like this. We played Kennerdale one year, and the game got ridiculously out of hand. And when the game was over, I mean, it was really bad. Of course, it was a different situation. I mean, I had the right guard had scored a touchdown, and the defensive end had scored a touchdown, and I mean, we scored 4 touchdowns that weren't even offensive touchdowns, and it was 28-0. And the game really was way out of hand. And to give you an example, the last tailback we had ran the ball 10 times and rushed for 140 yards in that game, and he played 3 quarters. So you do everything you can by substituting.
That one's overshooting.
And you do a lot of different things along those lines. The other thing that we did, we always went this way. We always played our first defense against their first offense, unless the game really got terribly out of hand. We always substituted on an offensive side of the ball, okay? And that way, because we had run into a situation a long time ago against Bermudian where we were up by 4 touchdowns, and then Bermudian scored 2 touchdowns on our second and third team defense. So then we had to put the first offense back in, and then they scored 2 more touchdowns, and the other team accused us of running up the score. And so we always just kept our first defense in as long as the other team had their first offense in. And then we would substitute and play our second and third teams when we had the ball. And those are things that you do to keep the game so that you're not getting the feeling of running it up.
And the other part of that too is you talk about, if the second defense or the third defense gives up a bunch of points, then the other guys are cranked down a little bit. It's hard to get that back.
That's right. You lose momentum.
Yeah. It's 3rd down and long again. Gibson back. He throws and overshoots everybody. There's a flag on the play in the area of holding.
That's where it looks like again. Yeah, it's thrown in the area of holding again. And a lot of that comes from general coaching. with what goes on. And a lot of times what that situation is the defensive lineman is getting past the offensive lineman, and he either grabs the jersey or he starts to loop his arm around the back, and that it automatically becomes, a holding call. So a lot of it is the coaching, where the offensive linemen have got to learn to move their feet. They've got to be able to slide and keep themselves between the defensive lineman and the quarterback. They've got to slide from side to side, and the VOTEC players are not doing that. They're doing a lot of reaching.
Very fortunate the last couple of years of Pat Flaherty coming back doing his Mason-Dixon lineman clinic here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've learned as much about offensive line in the last couple of years just watching from, the sidelines of that, as watching anything on TV. It's amazing to see the work that he does with these kids.
Well, that's his specialty, offensive line play.
Sure.
That's where he's coached a lot. So you can see Delone's just holding people up. They're not putting a return on or anything like that.
And actually, A.J. Noblock down here had to kind of get his head looped around there to make sure that one didn't bounce up and hit him.
Yeah. That's where the back here has to have a call. We used to use the word poison. That meant get out of the way of the ball. That type of thing. So the person receiving the punt, when that situation occurs, they've got to start calling it out so that the people blocking for him can get out of the way so the ball does not accidentally hit them.
A little under a minute and a half to go here in the first quarter. Squires up 28-0. Logan Brown cuts it back up to the inside, back against the green, and he's going to be close to a first down. It's number 75, Luis Ortiz Gomez on the tackle.
Second down for the Squires.
But that's something you definitely don't want your 75s making tackles 9 yards down the field.
No. He might have been a little bit better staying on the outside, but he decided to cut back against the grain, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the outside was open on that particular play. That was once again the buck sweep.
Brady pulls it down, rolls, throws. It's complete out in the left flat. Joe Hernandez on the catch. First down into York Tech territory.
And that was nothing more than what in the wing T is a lead pass, where the halfback just runs to the flat, the fullback comes up and blocks, and the quarterback just rolls slightly to that lead formation, and they throw the ball to the halfback in the flat.
This time, a little misdirection out of the backfield. That's new back. That's A.J. Noblock. For the first time on a carry, he's got a first down for the Squires.
Once again, buck sweep. So they're really not running a lot of different type plays, a lot of variations. They're really basically running buck sweep and veer trap, and that's about all you're getting. Delone staying in one formation, which is the tight wing formation, not varying too much with what they're doing, and being very successful at that. They run a little bit of waggle pass, lead pass, not a lot of plays.
It's time to give is to Hernandez. He cuts it back inside the 5-yard line.
And that time was a little bit of a variation. Instead of pulling both guards, they only got the backside guard and led with the fullback. It was more the lead sweep rather than the buck sweep.
So that will be the end of the first quarter with the score Delone Catholic 28, York Tech nothing. And one of those games that really the only thing that's going wrong for the Squires was the muff punt by Logan Brown about 3-4 minutes left in the quarter. But the Squires have York Tech going backwards. And to be honest, I would think that York Tech real close to break-even total yardage for the quarter.
Right. Yeah, you have a situation at VOTEC where, a lot of these kids do a lot of traveling, and it's difficult for them to stay very long for practices and things like this. So, it's tough for a coach to develop any type of program. The other thing is, they don't have a 7th and 8th grade program. They don't, in most cases, they don't have a freshman program. So a lot of these kids do not have a lot of football experience before they get to the high school level, where the Delone kids, they've been playing football since probably 3rd, 4th grade.
And a lot of them together.
Yeah, and that's right, and playing together.
Or against each other. I remember it was probably, 7 or 8 years ago now, when Coach Dave Still, who coached the McSherrystown Lions for 25 or 30 years, was retiring. And at the Delone Catholic New Oxford football game, they had him come out for the coin toss, and all the guys that played for him on both teams came out. So, you see that in the community, too. This time, Squires touchdown pass complete. It's Mason play ball, 5-yard reception.
And that was the waggle pass once again, which is they fake the ball to the fullback, and then they fake it to the halfback. The quarterback rolls, as he did right there, and he just throws to the either to the fullback or the split end to that side.
Martello Malbone will attempt the extra point again for the Squires. And that one is up and good. So 5 seconds into the second quarter, Delone Catholic 35, York Tech nothing.
Yeah, on that kick there, I think he got a little bit underneath the ball, and he got it over the crossbar, but not by too much.
And it looked like it was a decent snap, but I think the holder had a little trouble. It looked like he got it down late.
And that's why that's the timing was broken. That's why usually what happens, the kicker gets underneath the ball. Because what happens, he's not coming in on rhythm, and his steps get messed up, and he gets under the ball.
Look for the new design of hat, shirt, sweatshirt for all your Squire gear.
So once again, we're the only thing we're doing right now is we just switched the ends of the field. Delone scoring in the opposite end of the field.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like York Tech's going to be able to keep Delone under 54 points at this point right now.
Well, and for a lot of the reasons that you've talked about, this has been the history of this series. It's
And it's it's a difficult job for the coach. It's difficult for the kids because they're lacking in experience. They're lacking in cohesiveness as far as playing together and that type of thing. And it's just a difficult time. And you have a situation where York Tech is playing in this division for the simple reason that they know that they're not going to be successful.
This is a short kick picked up by and Carson, Tate Meter sliced through everybody, made a beeline, and made that.
Yep. And that's the quickness I was talking about. You notice how they got down the field real quick, and were able to actually run the run ball carrier down. And that's the thing that I notice about Delone. They have a lot of quickness with where they're at.
First down and 10 for the Spartans after the short kick return.
And here they're set up. They have trips over here to the right side and a single receiver to the other side.
This time he rolls out, but he's going to be wrestled down. That's Andrew Shipley. It looks like we have an injured Squire on the field. But going back to that series history, it's interesting that the 1994 team that we were talking about before the game off the air, Coach Zortman's senior year, is actually the closest game in the history of this series. It was 28-14, and that was a team that won, 12 games, something like that, won a district championship. So it's amazing how things work out sometimes.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, though, that might have been the year that that Votech had a quarterback that came from Northeastern.
Okay.
And he was a very good athlete as far as what went on. And then they also had a pretty good running back that year. So it was one of those games that, sometimes kids overlook certain opponents, and Votech wasn't all that bad that year.
This time Gibson looking to throw, but trying to step up in the pocket. There's nowhere to go. Andrew Shipley with sacks on back-to-back plays.
Once again, it looks like the offensive line is just not moving their feet, and the Delone players are able to get that deep penetration and get right in the quarterback's face.
Shipley had 3 sacks for like 35 yards last week, and that's 2 more this week.
Yeah, he was player of the week last week.
Yeah. Had that fumble return for a touchdown. A little bit of veer on that play. Picks up some positive yardage. There will be 4th down and about 15, 17 yards for York Tech.
The thing is, if you look at York Tech, they're making contact, but they don't hold their blocks. Delone's getting off the blocks very well and covering up the running back very well. They better get a punter in there.
It's going to be timeout York Tech. 10:19 to go in the second quarter. Usually you'll see that the other way. The return team doesn't send a guy deep. You don't often see the punter not in there.
Yeah, the punter just forgot to come out tonight. That would have been terrible to snap the ball with no punter back there. So,
elsewhere in the division tonight, we already talked about Littlestown at York Catholic. Biglerville is at Fairfield, and Bermudian Springs is at Hanover. So everybody in action against league opposition. Division 3 has 8 teams, so they don't have that situation with Division 2 has. I guess it's league play for everybody except Kennardale this week.
Mm-hmm.
The low snap through his legs.
See, Delone's not even rushing the punter.
Picks it up. It's a pretty decent spiral punt. Hits the ground, and it takes a good York Tech roll. And it's going to be touchdown at the 36-yard line. First down and 10 for the Squires.
Looks like we're getting some new faces in there now.
You guys just heard the PA announcer say Littlestown's up 13-6 over York Catholic.
Close ball game.
We got second string quarterback in now is number 5, Kevin Mowry. He is a junior, 5'10", 170. He's seen some fairly substantial action in the last 3 games because
you better hurry up here.
all 3 games have been mercy rule games, and when we roll over to the second half, this one will be too. 10 minutes to go in the second quarter here. Delone Catholic up 35-0 over York Tech. Mowry hands off and back stumbles in the backfield. Zach Fields, number 30. He's going to lose about a yard. Bring up second down and 11 for the Squires.
Once again, that was your buck sweep where they fake to the fullback. He feels for one of the guards, and both guards pull and lead the play around the tight end side. Here they're set with a tight wing to this side this time.
Mowry up under center, and we've got a flag. It's going to be a false start against the Squires, so the second down and 16.
Yeah, this is usual when you get some of your second line people in there. They're a little anxious to be successful and show what they can do, and they jump a little bit, and it's not uncommon for those things to happen. Delone has assured themselves more than likely going into the mercy rule, so that they can play some other people here and get some valuable game experience.
And that's a give off the left tackle. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good gain.
Yeah, that's a new play that they haven't ran, which is it's a basic part of the wing T offense. That's the lead play where the fullback carries it to the split end side, and the halfback leads into the hole. So
Josh Bolton, the sophomore fullback on that, he's had a number of carries already this season as well. Just like you say, with a lot of these young guys, a lot of freshmen and sophomores on this team getting valuable experience, because of these big margins. And that was tipped and nearly intercepted. Wyatt Schussler, the intended receiver.
And the Votech safety there had a shot at the interception. And that was the waggle pass once again, and it was Votech had it fairly well covered that time.
And it looks like the Squires are going to punt for the first time tonight. Good snap. Logan Brown rolling out a little bit rugby style, kicks it, and it hits the ground, and it's going to roll down almost to the 20-yard line.
Down by number 23,
Dylan Cadis downs the ball. 8 minutes and 14 seconds to go before halftime. Squires up 35-0, opening the division play. And this is actually they configured the schedule, the league schedule, just a little bit. Actually, for the Squires, this is the spot that York Catholic's been for a number of years.
Yeah.
Switched this one and that one. It actually broke up a little bit of a murderer's row for the Squires there with York Catholic and Littlestown, and Biglerville's been solid for a couple of years off and on, and then Bermuda in 4 games in a row.
Well, the schedule should be changed should change about every 2 years.
It was for at least 2 cycles and maybe 3. It was the same.
That shouldn't be going on. I know when I was the athletic director, that I would have objected to that very strongly. That there should the team should be redrawn so that the schedule is changing. You shouldn't have the same schedule. That seems to me, I mean, I hate to say this, but that's laziness on behalf of the scheduler. He's just running the same schedule for those cycles.
And there was nowhere to go for the running back on that play. No block in there, and nearly got there at the same time as the ball.
It looks like there's still a good many the starters playing defense, and that I think is wise to do. You could see the step down on offense. What went on there, and you keep your first group in, and you just keep the game in hand. You keep your 35 points and that type of thing, and then you're in good shape there.
2 receivers split each way. A quick pass to the wide receiver out on the left flat. The wide receiver screen picks up about 4 or 5, but bring up 4th down again for the Spartans.
I'm surprised that a little bit at York Tech, they could do the same thing to the slot receiver, because the person defending the slot receiver is 12 yards off the ball. They would have more success throwing to the slot receiver than they would to the split end, because the split end side, the corner's playing up tight.
Now, is a play like that designed specifically to go to the split end versus
or
does the quarterback have an option on that? Ball fair caught at the 45-yard line, but they're going to get 15 for
Yeah, but
a roughing call.
See, what that play is designed to do, it's nothing more than a wide play, and they're trying to get someone who has ball skills to be able to make a play on the corner and pick up some yardage. And the thing is, what you want to do is look to where there's the coverage is off. In this particular case, the slot receiver is being covered by the safety, and the outside linebacker is playing in to stop run. Where the ball could be thrown is to the slot receiver on that quick play, and they would pick up some yardage. A lot of times at the college level, they'll actually call that a run pass option. They'll have the one side of the line blocking run and throwing the ball on the other side. And I know there's some coaches complaining about that right now.
I would think that's really hard as an offensive lineman to not get yourself downfield.
Well, they're taught that their blocks can't be more than 2.5 yards downfield. You can get away with 2.5 yards. If you get 3, you're in trouble. So they have to have a feel on where the line of scrimmage is and that type of thing.
Tate Niederer with a big run on 1st down. Brings up another 1st down inside the 30-yard line.
Oh, we have a new formation here. They're running a split wing this time. They got the wing to the split end side and running buck sweep.
Be to no block. He's got the and cuts it back up, bounces it outside again, and he's going to go touchdown. AJ no block. 27 yards.
Another nice run there. He's able to break some arm tackles there and take the buck sweep into the end zone that time. It's got to be discouraging for York Tech to be being scored on like this. It's almost scored on at will.
Tony Espinoza is going to be in to try this extra point, and you do have to admire in a way, knowing that they're up against it like this. That they put the effort into
right
out there, and
there's so many skills you learn at a young age when you're playing in third and fourth grade, and fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth grade. You're learning things, and the people that are probably learning the most are the linemen. And these kids are coming in, and they have no experience, so they have a hard time being able to move their feet, and a lot of it's what we used to call is pop and stop. They'll hit the guy they're supposed to, and they stop. And they don't have that experience of carrying the block out, that type of thing.
Out of town scoreboard, courtesy of YAIAA Fairfield 7, Biglerville nothing in the second quarter. Dallastown 14-0 over Southwestern in the second. Kennerdale's up 21-0 over Big Spring in the second. Littlestown 13, York Catholic 6 in the second. Red Lion up 21-14 over Central York. Northeastern 28-0 over Spring Grove. Gettysburg 28-0 over West York. Bermudian Springs 21-0 over Hanover. Dover 21-0 over Susquehannock. York High 29, New Oxford 14, and York Suburban 21, Eastern York nothing, all in the second quarter. And that's going to be a kick out of bounds. That was Marcello Malvone. It looks like they're switching roles here. Malvone, I think that's the first time all year he's kicked off, and Espinoza went back in to kick the extra point. So certainly some game situation work on special teams here for the kickers.
Right. Well, one of the scores there, I was kind of surprised to hear Central was getting beat. I had thought Central was going to be the big dog in Division I, and they're losing right now. But games goes a long way, so you never know. Now you have some substitutes here on defense too.
York Tech's got two receivers each way. The give is going to be to the tailback. He's going to get through into the linebacker level and get about 3 or 4 yards. 5.5 minutes to go before halftime. Squires up 42-0 over York Tech.
But these kids are hanging in there. They're still playing hard for York Tech, and that says a lot for them. It really does.
And they're to this point, have been very disciplined too. It's not hard for a team that's in this position to start having the frustration penalties and
right. Exactly.
The personal foul on the punt. I think based on the reaction of the coverage man there, I don't think he saw the fair catch signal. Certainly that wasn't out of frustration.
No, I don't think so either.
A lot in games like this.
Right. It's more lack of playing experience. In a situation, he's not coming down looking to see what the receiver is of the punt is doing, and he just went down, so he caught the ball and he tackled him.
It's going to be another give to the back, and he's going to be stopped for no gain by the Squires front line.
Yeah, they had some success with that play earlier, running it to the right side, and this time they tried to run that little handoff to the pistol back there and off the left side, and there was no go there.
So York Tech set to punt again.
Yeah, you can see that Delone's just trying to hold the lineman up.
Kevin Mowry, the deep man, and that's probably the best punt of the night for York Tech. It's going to be downed at about the 23-yard line. Squires 1st and 10, 4:20 to go before halftime.
Actually, the punter for York Tech's not doing a bad job. He's getting plenty of time to punt it, but he is he actually's got a pretty good foot on him as far as getting some distance and with what he's doing. Delone, you can see right there, just letting the ball hit the ground and being very, conscious of the scoreboard right now, and not looking to really run it up.
Well, and I think too, part of the success of that punt was it was a much better snap that time, so he could kind of catch it in rhythm and kick it. The give up the middle, it's Fulton, I think, breaking through a couple of tackles, dragging some defenders, and picking up about 5.
That ball was just given to the fullback off tackle, and he picked up a nice 5-yard gain that time.
It's kind of odd to watch football and see a fullback, though, because it's kind of gone the way of the dinosaur at the NFL level for the most part, and certainly in college.
Yeah, well, there's still a few teams around. It'll have a fullback, but that's where high school is right now. They still run in the fullback. Although even at the high school level, you're seeing more and more teams go into shotgun spread formation. It really, what that spread formation does, it just puts pressure. You're able to match, good players against what you consider a lesser player, and be able to get them the ball and get bigger plays. And that's what the whole offense is designed to do.
1st down and 10 for the Squires. Give this time is to Noblock. He tries to cut it back and loses his feet. I'm sorry, it's Tate Niederer.
And that's just once again, that probably has a little bit to do with the wet field. It's really not that wet, but the ground gives way pretty easily at this particular point, because the ground, the level of the water in the ground is way up high.
Yeah, it's been an incredible week or so. Give us to Zach Fields around the right end, picks up a couple. Made the mistake last Tuesday or Wednesday. It should have mowed the grass. It was about 112 degrees, so I'll get it later. It hasn't stopped raining since.
That's right. It has been a very unusual weather year, that's for sure. And if it hasn't been in the 90s, it's been raining.
Yeah.
And so I think it's stressed. A lot of fields have been stressed by that, as far as your grass and things like that.
Give to Fulton again. He's kind of become the workhorse on this drive. He is into Spartans territory at 1st down. The real issue I have is I can't turn my sons loose on the lawn because their mowers blow bubbles. So it's going to be a couple of years.
Yeah, you got a couple of years to worry about that yet. That was, once again, nothing more than the fullback off tackle, and he cut that back real nice. A good running back, he should always be looking from the inside out. The quicker that you can get upfield, the better. And a good running back, whether he's a halfback or a fullback, is looking for the hole on the inside, because that's where you can bust big plays. If the hole opens up, if it's closed down in tight, then you're working your way to the outside, and that's what a good back should be doing.
When you're coaching a running back, how much of that is natural versus how much of it is taught, and how much of it's repetition and practice?
Well, I think it's a combination of all those things, but the key to that is when you find out you have a good running back, it's because he has good eyes, because he has the ability to see where the hole's going to be, not so much where it's at. Sometimes if you know where it's at, it's too late. You've got to see how the blocks are developing, and you have those good eyes. You can see where the hole's going to break open, and you hit it just as it breaks open. So a lot of that comes from natural talent, the ability of the running back to adapt to the blocking scheme, that type of thing. So there's a number of things, and then repetition can develop that skill of reading those blocks. So it's a combination of all those things.
How much of it too is, and knowing the offense so well that you know what's supposed to happen.
Well,
too.
that's what comes from experience in running it in practice over and over and over again. You get a feel of learning what your offense is doing. You learn what your offensive linemen are doing. You know, we always use blocking calls, and was very important was be the running backs understanding what the blocking call was, to know because on you could run the same play, but if the defense is set a different way, you're going to get a different blocking scheme. So if they know what the blocking scheme is, they can anticipate where the blocks are coming from and hit the hole at the right time.
After the timeout, we have penalty and false start against the Squires. We're 2:09 to go before halftime. 42-0 Squires over York Tech. Here in the fourth game of the season, Squires looking to roll their record to 4-0. Came into this game as the leading scoring team in the state of Pennsylvania, averaging nearly 55 points a game, and well on the way to making that happen again tonight. Mowry hands.
That time the guard didn't get the trap block, and the defensive tackle was able to make that play, and that's the first time they've stopped the inside trap play.
I'd like to remind everybody that we'll be back with you in 2 weeks for homecoming. It's a rescheduled homecoming. It was supposed to be a month from now against Fairfield, but with their uncertainty about having a varsity program, moved homecoming to the 28th against Biglerville. So DCBN will be on the air probably about 6:15 to catch the homecoming court festivities. Big stop there for York Tech. We'll be back on the air for that. We'll be here for all of the home football games this year, and encourage you to check out the Delone Catholic Facebook page at www.delonecatholic.org for the schedule of senior night games and other sports that we'll be bringing to you here on DCBN.
Now we have a very third and long situation, almost 20 yards. See what they come up with.
The clock's running with under a minute to go in the quarter. Kevin Mowry rolls to his right, throws. It's a short throw. It's going to be incomplete. Bring up fourth down.
On the particular play, that time if you watch the quarterback, he was running away from his receiver. When you're on the move like that, you teach your quarterback his number should be facing. When you're running, he should be facing where you're going to throw the ball, and he had his numbers turned away. Consequently, the ball came up short on the throw.
And I would think that's an experience thing too, because
that's
actually something Evan Brady does, the starting quarterback does extremely well. Even as hard as it is for a right-handed quarterback to roll to his left and throw accurately, he does that extremely well.
And that's a basic technique type thing. He's getting his numbers where he's going to throw the ball, and that's how you have to. You when you are on the run, you throw the ball. Your numbers should be facing your target.
An end-over-end punt hits the ground and fielded at about the 30-yard line. That's 36 is Logan Howland. Tate Niederer on the tackle.
And that there once again showed quickness that Delone has, that they were able to run down the kick returner that time very, very quickly. Did not, because there was an opening here. They could, if they would have got to the sideline here, they would have picked up some yardage. But the quickness there, he ran him down before he could get to that open area.
I think, some of the people that were covering the game last week at Steel High, I think, were a little bit stunned by that quickness the Squires are showing, because I think sometimes this program gets a little bit of a reputation for a slow plodding team, which is fairly earned. Long pass broken up. Looked like the defensive back got a helmet in there, probably face guarding at a different level, but they don't call that in high school. Just 30 seconds to go here in the half.
As the situation was there, if the receiver would have just paused and allowed the defensive man to run by, he could have made the catch. But that's an experience type thing that you need to learn as a receiver is how to play the man that is face guarding you like that.
Or let him run through you, which is probably just as likely to happen.
Could be, yes.
Gibson looking to throw again. He's under pressure. Gets it up there, overthrows everybody.
I'm not sure what he was trying to do, whether he was trying to hit the post from the split end or the slot that was going up the sideline. He threw the ball in the middle between the two of them. So I'm not sure exactly where he was throwing the ball, because the man on the tight post was over towards the middle of the field, and the other receiver was going up the sideline. The ball was thrown over by the hash.
3rd down and 10. Ball at the 39. Under half a minute to go here before halftime. And it's going to be a handoff. Looking for the outside. He's got it. Got a first down into Squires territory. Brought down there about the 46, 47-yard line. Kevin Mallory on the stop. 15 seconds to go in the half.
And that, once again, that was the success they were having earlier. They were able to get that sweep type play. The defensive end has got to turn the play back in, and that's not happen. That didn't happen that time, and that's what allowed the play to gain the first down. That's probably going to be the last play of the half.
Yeah, looks like the ball was spotted down inbound. So Gibson to throw. Good long throw, and actually the receiver turned defensive back there to break that up, and that'll be the end of the first half with Delone Catholic leading York Tech 42-0. And we're going to stay here because we have nowhere to go, and we're going to talk some football here. Again, you're watching DCBN, Delone Catholic, and York Tech. Squires leading 42-0. Eric Lawrence along with former Delone Catholic coach Denny Prue filling in for the South Bend road tripping Tony Weaver tonight. And I want to say hi. Hopefully he's watching us out there in South Bend somewhere with all of his traveling party. But, we talked about this a little bit off the air before the game, Coach. But obviously this team has the makings of a pretty solid team based on the results that we've seen so far. But, you over your 28-year head coaching career obviously had some outstanding teams and then maybe some teams that were going to struggle a little bit. How do you know kind of going into a season what you have, and do you prepare any differently with one versus the other?
Oh, well, there is a difference in preparing, but to find out really what type of team you have, what's necessary is you've got to come up and you've got to play a good opponent, and that can happen maybe at a scrimmage at the beginning of the year, or it can happen at a certain opponent that during the course of the season is going to be a strong opponent. That's when you find out if you're really going to be a good team. So, finding that tough opponent, and for Delone, probably that tough opponent's going to be next week when they play Littlestown. They're going to find out if they're truly a really good top-notch team. And they've played what I would consider a very difficult, 3 games to begin the season. When you looked at it on paper, I thought Delone will be lucky to come out 2-1, and they came out 3-0, and they came out as very dominant. So you always have the question: is Delone that good, or the opponents that weak? So that's why you need to play a true tested, well-coached team, and that's what I think you'll find when they play Littlestown next week.
Now, backing up a step, obviously things are a lot different from a scheduling standpoint from when you coached. I mean, they've eliminated, 1 week of the preseason. You've got all the heat acclimation and everything, but you're down to 1 scrimmage. But,
right.
Whether it be this format or the format you coached under, was there a strategic bent behind who you scheduled as your scrimmage opponents, or was it just kind of who you could get?
Well, everybody is different. I always liked to schedule, at least one difficult team, because I wanted to find out early in the year what type of team I had. because you approach your season differently. If you find out that you're not going to be that top-notch team, you're gonna prepare a little bit differently. You're gonna work more fundamentals and that type of thing. If you have that top-notch team, you can add a little bit more of the playbook into what you're dealing with, that type of thing, whether it be offense or defensively, depending upon the strength of that particular team, or if you have you're strong on both sides of the ball, you can really expand the playbook that way. So I like to schedule difficult people early. That doesn't always necessarily happen. I mean, I've had years where, like one year I was having difficulty getting a scrimmage, and in the district championship the previous year we played YAIAA, okay, and we beat them, and I knew I wasn't going to be as strong the next year, and I talked to YAIAA and I said, hey, let's get together with this scrimmage. They refused. They didn't want to play us. And I said, Coach, I don't lie to people. I'm going to tell you, I'm not as strong as I was last year. I says, I think it'll be a good scrimmage. He would not play. I ended up having to go and I was scrimmaging. I ended up getting a scrimmage at a tri-scrimmage with Biglerville and Waynesboro. And so you never know, how people will take you, and sometimes it's difficult to get the scrimmages that you expect. I had years we were scrimmaging some teams from down in Lancaster County and down there, and we scrimmaged a team down there. I'm not going to mention the name, and they're pretty good right now, but they were quad A school, and we scrimmaged them twice, and we did very well against them both times, and they said, you better find a scrimmage for next year because we're not scrimmaging you. So, I mean, so all of a sudden now you've got to find scrimmages, and sometimes people will scrimmage you and sometimes they won't. But that was always how I felt. Now there's other people that they like to get easy scrimmages because that they feel like they're building momentum early. But everybody has their own philosophy.
Sure. Let's say you're early in the season, whether it be the scrimmage or, you get a good, tough opponent early, and you start to find out that, hey, I've got a pretty good team here. How do you kind of play amateur psychologist to let that team not get ahead of itself and still accept the task at hand and, one team at a time, and knowing that they're probably pretty good?
Well, there's a lot of things that you do. As far as what goes on, I have found when you have a really good team, those are the years that I'm tougher on the team. Because I'm more demanding upon what goes on, because I know they have the ability to be very good. When you're maybe not as good, you're not. It's not that you're a little bit more understanding of mistakes that they make, where we would go through, and you went through what film study. We would come in on Mondays and we'd go through film, and we would grade everybody out, and the grading was a little bit easier when you weren't playing as well, and the grading was a little bit tougher when you had the really good teams. So those were things that was one way to keep the focus of those really good teams was to be very demanding upon them, and making sure that they were really working very hard on the fundamentals, because it's very easy for a good team to slack off a little bit, loosen up a little bit, and the next thing you know, they get surprised by somebody, or maybe even lose a game.
What do you find about a team as they're kind of going through the off-season workouts? I mean, obviously, I remember we'd hit the end of a season and we'd get a couple weeks there to take a breath, but then you would always tell us, hey, those guys that aren't playing a winter sport or whatever, we're going to open it up, get the weight room going, and then
right.
As things go through there, what do you learn about a team, basically from December on to when camp starts?
Well, I normally felt in my mind, you win league championships, you win district championships in the off season, and the teams that were willing to put the time in were the ones that were successful. The ones that lackadaisical came from time to time, and they weren't in the weight room and tough things like that. Those are the teams that usually weren't nearly as successful. And you talked about Corey Zortman's senior year. That was probably one of the most dedicated groups I had. I mean, there were people that they were in that weight room, and it was amazing some of the progress they made in the weight room, and it showed when we came out and we were playing teams. Corey Zortman was a quarterback. Nothing against Corey, but his senior year he only threw for 303 yards. We ran the ball a lot, and that was because we had a good offensive line, and they were strong, well conditioned athletes. They worked hard at their trade, and we ran the ball, and we ran the ball against everybody we played, and we didn't try to fool people. We said we're running it. You stop us, and those kids, had put the time in, put the effort in, properly prepared themselves, and we won a lot of football games.
But I think, that was my freshman year. So, I mean, I was at almost every one of those games. I think one of the only ones I wasn't was the Saturday afternoon at West York. I was listening on the radio when Mark Smith ran for about 9,000 yards in that game. But,
let me tell you a funny story about that. We were playing West York, and we were running the ball very well. And West York kept calling timeout. And what the players were telling me later on, the defensive coordinator was coming out and inventing defenses on the run in the middle of the game, trying to stop Mark Smith. So, you run into situations like that. But those guys, it seemed like whatever you would throw up to them, whatever type of defensive scheme you put up, they adapted very well, used their blocking calls, and we still ran the ball.
Well, and I think, to me, that was always, even at the time, the most impressive thing about that team is you and they knew what they were, and they knew we were going to line up across from you and run the ball down your throat. And, I mean, even against, we were talking before the game, off the air, about, that Scotland game in the districts. I mean, those guys came out there. Scotland's averaging 300 pounds a man across their offensive line, and defensively not much less than that. And none of those guys were huge. I mean, I think,
No.
if memory serves, I mean, you're talking 220, 230-pound guys, but they lined up and, won football games.
You don't have to be huge to play the game of football. A lot of it's heart, and a lot of it's dedication, and a lot of it's, work in the off season. And those kids did an awful lot of work in the off season. And look, that wasn't the only team that did that. We had other teams do the same thing. I mean, a lot of our success came because of what we did in the off season. That was an important aspect of what went on. And like I said, I firmly believe, you win championships, whether it be back in the city championship, the league championship, and district championships. You win them all in the off season. And if you properly prepare yourself, you're working harder than your opponents. 9 times out of 10, you're going to win.
And kind of switching
and a lot of times, we won football games against teams who had much better talent than we did.
Well, and that leads me. I mean, I don't know if you knew where I was going to go.
I think so
with that, but switching gears to the opponents. I think about the one that even when I was playing, you were still talking about the district game, because we were playing Eastern every year at that point. You were still talking about when John Whitman played in that district playoff game for Eastern York. I mean, there's a guy who went. I think he ended up all Big Ten at Penn State and was on an undefeated team, and then played for the Steelers for like 10 or 11 years and was an incredible fullback in the NFL. And this is a guy that, little old team from McSherrystown plays and did incredibly well against.
Yeah, I mean, that was a game that we were a little bit surprised with, because and not surprised, because we knew what we were getting when we were playing Whitman. I mean, he was a 220-pound high school tailback. I mean, and so consequently we knew what we were getting. But that game was, we went down and scored, they went down and scored, we went down and scored, they went down and scored, we went down and scored, and finally we stopped them. And I think we were ahead by 1 touchdown at halftime. And then we just adjusted things that we just brought people up. But there's a funny story that came out of that too, because we had a player, Lance Little, was playing, and John Whitman came running through the line, and he ran right over Lance. But the funny thing happened. John Whitman stepped on his face mask and his shoe got caught and tackled him and held him from not going for a touchdown. So, you run into different things like that. But, it was a game that we finally adjusted and took away Whitman. And that was the big thing. We were trying to do it the first half, but we finally made a couple other adjustments where we were bringing the safety up to stop the run, that type of thing. And daring them to throw, and they didn't. That type of thing. Well, they tried to, but it was one of those things that you're a lot of times preparation. The kids working hard and that type of thing. There's an extremely talented individual, and none of our players ended up in the NFL, but we were able to handle one of the best and still win the game.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring up Lance Little, because I remember the first time I heard this story was my sophomore year. His brother Craig was a senior on that team, and I remember you telling Craig that story.
Yeah.
But it's just it's one of those things. You look, and throughout the history of Delone Catholic football, we're talking back from the very beginning, probably even in the Central Catholic days, there have been outstanding players and teams. Sure. Pat Whitehead-Stahl played for Temple and, ended up playing in the CFL for years. But by and large, this program has not produced Division I and NFL caliber talent because it's just, for the most part, not here. But it's year in and year out. This is a team that opponents don't want to play because of the preparation.
Well, as a coach, what I always appreciated was the kids that were here, the attitude they had. I used to tell people, I could tell a player, I want you to run through that wall. And at other schools, people would say, why? People in Delone would say, where? So that's the difference you had. You had a different type of, you had a great attitude with kids, and they were great to work with. They still are, I'm sure, and it was just a great place to coach, that type of thing. So,
and what is it like for you standing up here and you're looking at this sideline, and probably 90% of this coaching staff you coached?
Well, obviously, I feel very good about that. It's a situation that you feel like you're still, you've made some contribution to the continuation of Delone Catholic football, and I'm very pleased that that's happened. I've been very pleased to just be part of Delone football. I go way back. I can remember coming to Delone Catholic in 1970. I think it was 71, 72 area, that type of thing. And I stood right across the field over there at that press box, and Delone Catholic was playing Pittsburgh Central Catholic. And I was at that game, and I stood there and I watched the game and that type of thing, because I'm originally from Western Pennsylvania, and of course I knew Pittsburgh Central Catholic, and I went through the whole thing, the whole 9 yards, and I was interested in the game, and I was very impressed because Pittsburgh Central Catholic had much better talent, and Delone stayed right with them. It was very, to me, it really impressed me, with what was going on for this area. And of course they had Delone went on and with the Cedar Cliff games and stuff like that. So it was very impressive for me, when I got the job as a freshman coach, to be part of Delone Catholic High School, and very, very pleased to have been here for as long as I was.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up that Pittsburgh Central Catholic game, because that was coming out of an era where the Squires ended up, and it's a nice segue into an advertisement for 2 weeks from now. John Gasly's teams had 3 undefeated teams in 5 years, and we'll be celebrating the 1968 team, the 50th anniversary of that 10-0-0 team, here in 2 weeks. There'll be a halftime celebration, and I think Jordy Lawrence was one of the captains on that team, and I think he's the kind of guy that you don't say no to. So I'm expecting a pretty good turnout there, and just really excited to get that bunch back, because they played. That was even I think the last year before this program got into the South Central League. So all they had was to play those 10 games and to play it the best they had. And that particular year, it was good enough to win them all. And that was a murderer's row of huge schools. I mean, that was Carlisle. That was, I think Cedar Cliff was involved in that. I think they were playing Chambersburg every year back then. So it was just a different world at that time.
Well, a lot of that is, up until they started district playoffs, that's how everything was. You played your 10 games and that was it. And everybody was, everybody was rated there. I think it was the old Sailor system. They rated and said, oh, well, this is the team that's #1 in the state and stuff like that. So that's all it was. Once they started playing districts, and then you start playing some extra games, you truly found out, who was really good, and that type of thing. So, well, we're back to the game. We better better get back there.
Eric Lawrence and former head coach Denny Prue here early in the third quarter. Delone Catholic 42, York Tech nothing. Squires get the opening kickoff in the second half and got the ball into York Tech territory again. I appreciate everybody being with us and weathering our technical difficulties 2 weeks ago. We're coming up with a new system here, and I appreciate Bill Smith and the work that he's done in the background to get us on here because technically I am not qualified to do this, so I appreciate the effort he's put in and just good people here with us, and we're very fortunate. Squires with another big run deep into the secondary. Tyler Monto. Seeing some starters back in here. When you come out like this, what do you do? I mean, you're giving these guys probably a series, maybe 2 tops.
That's probably what you do. You give them another series, and then that's about it. Because the other thing you want to be a little bit careful of, you've got to watch out for injuries and stuff like that. You're going to go into a big game next week, and that's where you're truly going to find out, like we talked about earlier. What type, really, what caliber team do you have?
And it's an interesting game. Kind of a side note. It's the last time the Squires will play at Memorial Field after all these years because they've had a stadium under construction. It was actually, I think, supposed to be open back in the spring or maybe even for last season, but weather and construction delays and everything. So kind of one of those classic crosstown rivalry venues coming to a close next weekend for the Squires.
Oh, yeah. It's, those games, it used to be, you go back to the days when, you were playing Hanover the first game, that type of thing. That used to be, that was the game, that type of thing. And, of course, used to go over to Hanover, and there'd be 8,000 people there. Yeah. And
when I was a little kid, I could never understand the years that who wore black jerseys over there. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
York Tech calls a timeout, but realistically, probably for the last, 20 years anyway, 25, 30 years maybe, Littlestown has been the most competitive knockdown, drag-out rivalry for the Squires. I mean, Hanover's had their fair share of issues since Southwestern opened, but Littlestown, it's one of those classic throw out the records. Neither team has had any real long runs of success, and it's just kind of a grudge match.
Well, it was very much like that. I mean, George Hugh used to be over there. George was an outstanding coach, and he did a great job with his people over there, and that kind of continued, as time went on, and you can't really you look at it and great cut back there.
Maury, and we got a flag on the play.
I think he's got Maury, hands on his back. But it has been that way, for a very long time, and it was always really a fun game to coach. With what went on, because you have 2 teams that are fairly close in size enrollment, and I think Littlestown's got a little bit bigger now. But as far as what went on, the players, they all knew each other, that type of thing, and so there like you say, there was some grudges going on out there, and it was fun to play that game.
Yeah. Hold on the Squires negates Maury's run. Short gain here on it's second down and 10 from about the 20-yard line. But as you went on in your career, I mean, certain of the teams kind of followed you from league to league to league, but other ones kind of came and went. But the ones that you kind of played year in and year out over 22, 23, 24, 26 years, however many some of them were in, what was the difference in preparation for a team that you pretty much knew everything? Like you talk about George Shue. I mean, he was over there forever and you were here forever. So
there's a nice run there.
Touchdown for the Squires. Tate Needler goes 20 yards. He gets the Squires on the board for the first time here in the second half.
Actually, that was a very nice run. He cracked the line of scrimmage on cutting up inside, and the hole opened to the outside, and he bounced it outside and took it all the way in. It was a very, very nice run.
And this is Michael O'Brien now, our third different place kicker attempting an extra point tonight. A little bit of a low snap, good hold, but a couple of guys threw and blocked. So that will make it 48-0 Delone Catholic with 8:29 to go in the third quarter. And should mention again, we do have the running clock. Once there's a 35-point lead in the second half, the clock only stops on change of possessions and penalties and injuries. But
other than that, it's gonna go pretty quick.
Yeah, not that there's any danger, I think, of that happening tonight. But if there's ever a case where it gets back under 35, it doesn't stop. But to get back to that question, what's that like for you? I mean, you two probably knew each other's tendencies. You knew what each other wanted to do, and it just depended, I guess, on the personnel. And it's not like you were going to trick each other.
Oh, you could, but you had to be very sharp with what you were doing, and a lot of that came from things like film study and things like this, that you noticed they were doing certain things against certain plays, and like I mentioned to you earlier, we always had sister plays that started out looking like one play and ended up like another. So those ended up as being very important in games like that. I can remember, we had one particular play, and you can remember, we used to call it 8-9 jet, and Littlestown used to take, and we would pull our tackle, and Littlestown start taking their defensive tackle and taking off down the line of scrimmage. So through film study, we picked this up, and what we did is we ran what we called a sucker play. We faked that toss, okay? We pulled the tackle left, and we handed the ball off the fullback going through there. So you can come up with little things. I mean, the first time we ran the play, Chris Timmons ran for about 30 yards. He was very leery that he was going to get killed on that play, and he ran for 30 yards. So
changed his mind then, huh?
Yeah, he changed. He liked that play afterwards.
Hey, good change of direction. Breaks a couple of tackles, and he only had another guy or two to beat. That's a nice job by the North Tech back there.
Yeah, he turned around and made a nice run out of that. So, you could, what you have to do, you learn what the other guy's doing, and then you find out, what can I do to counter that? So it's sort of like playing chess. So that's basically, you know each other very well what they're going to do, and then what you try to do is move your pieces around to take advantage of what they're doing. They're doing the same thing, so it makes it very interesting.
Under 7.5 to go in the third quarter. Squires up 48-0, and short game. Kind of on the flip side of that, I mean, I'm sure over your 3 decades on the sideline, you saw more than your fair share of rookie head coaches. How much different does that make your preparation, especially if it's like, I mean, obviously you played Hanover pretty much the first game every year, but if you had a rookie head coach in the first week or two, how does that affect the preparation? Because you don't have any film on that guy.
Well, what in the most case went on, there was mutual agreement that you usually got a film exchange. So you got a little bit of an idea, and the one thing when you had a rookie coach like that, if he was very young and new, he usually had problems with his preparation. But a rookie coach who had a lot of experience made it very difficult playing, because you only had 2 films to judge as far as tendencies goes. When we played against someone like George Shue, who we played over and over and over and over again, you pretty much had an idea tendencies, what they're going to try to do, and that type of thing. So it made it a little bit more difficult when you're playing someone that that you had very little experience playing against.
And that's another punt down, as we talked. The Squire's just kind of running away from the punts, but that's at least I guess twice in your career you switched leagues. So I mean that took your whole schedule, and in some cases made it that it was opponents that were new to you.
No, it was more than that. Because when we started, actually we were mid pen 1.
Right.
Then we went to mid pen 2.
Okay.
Okay. So that there was 2 right there, and then we played the Blue Mountain League, we played York Adams, and we played Division 2, and then we went Division 3. So there was quite a few switches there with what were going on, and you had to adjust to a lot of different teams when you were playing against those people.
9-yard gain on the play. Brings up 2nd and 1.
Sometimes we switched, and I was very much against switching. Matter of fact, I was adamant about playing. I wanted to be in Division 2 in the York Adams League, and they just flat out wouldn't let me.
That ball hits the ground, but it's recovered, and it might have even been enough for a first down anyway. But
I think he did. He picked the first down.
Talking about when they split, brought in Bermuda and Biglerville, went to 3 divisions from 2. Yeah.
Because we at that particular time we were doing very well in Division 2. We were either 1, 2, or 3 in the league.
Sure. I mean,
and then they just moved us out, and the people in Division, between you and me, the people in Division 2 wanted to get rid of us. They didn't want to play us anymore.
Yeah, I remember that because I got up through high school when we were in like our 4th or 5th year in the York Adams League, and there still were only 2 divisions. So, Mowry with the misdirection, he's got to step on some people. He might go. Nope, he's going to be corralled at the 30-yard line. Nice play.
Last guy got him. That was a bootleg. As far as I don't think he missed the handoff. I think it was a design bootleg, and he took off. He's got good speed there, right there. He caught the corner, and last man got him.
But yeah, every year, I mean, we were playing Susquehannock and York Suburban and Eastern York and West York, and a lot of schools that at this point are 3, 4, and 5A schools.
Yeah. So, but a lot of them didn't want to play us anymore, and they used the idea you don't have the enrollment to be in Division 2. I said, yeah, but we got the pedigree to be in Division 2. They wouldn't buy that.
Give is to Fulton right up the middle.
Weren't successful in running the trap. It seems like the defensive tackles now are kind of closing down on that trap. I think they're not playing the buck sweep anymore. They just try to stop that trap. And sometimes that's the way that you set your defense up. You tell a certain section, this is the play you got to stop, and these are the plays you have to stop. And the inside tackles are stopping the trap. The outside backer and the defensive end are supposed to stop buck sweep, or at least turn it in, and the linebacker's supposed to clean up the whole mess.
Clock running under 3 minutes with the.
See what they've done? They've gone to an odd man line.
And there's a flag on the play. Tate Meter pushed out of bounds.
Votech has gone from a 4-man front to a 5-man front to stop that trap.
Okay.
And they're being successful doing it. So now what Delone's got to start doing is running the fullback off tackle.
Got a hold on the play. Brings back a gain from Niederer to a loss of like about 10, 12.
See, they've taken a linebacker out and put a down lineman in his place. That's to stop that trap. But that should leave him vulnerable in the off tackle area.
I don't know if it was an oversimplification, but I remember when we would play like Hanover, and they were playing the wing T, you would say basically tackle everybody because one of them's going to have the ball. But it doesn't seem like some of the wing T teams are as predictable, or maybe that was just an oversimplification to help us play better. I don't know.
that was a little bit of oversimplification, but Hanover used to do it. Hanover and later on Southwest became very good at running the wing T. They were good. And Jack Connor was very innovative with what goes on. Jack was very good running the wing T. And really when Southwest went to the wing T, all the people that were there had come from coaching under Jack Connor. He was at Southwest.
Yeah. That's going to be another loss for the Squires. That is Delone Stahl. Minute and a half to go here in the third quarter. Squires up 48-0 over York Tech. Yeah, I always look at this in preparation for the Hanover games that we've done on DCBN over the years. 20 years out, it still makes me a little bitter. I had the misfortune of being here at the same time that Hanover was really, really good. Back to back to back. It was the years with the Hensons and the Conovers and people like that. And, they had that, 12-game winning streak that the Squires just ran off a couple of years ago and against Hanover. And we lost to them 4 times in 3 years because we ran into them when they were good.
Yeah. That was, I think they only, Hanover, if I'm not mistaken, they only beat us 3 times when I was coaching.
Yeah, they were all when I was here.
Yeah. So
it's going to be a turnover on downs for.
I believe that's all it was only 3 times.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were in 1 year.
Oh yeah, that was my sophomore year. We played them in Red Lion.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that was
district
semifinal.
Mm-hmm.
New quarterback in for the Spartans. Ball is on the ground, and
I think Delone has it.
Recovered by the Squires. I believe Sam Peters, the new quarterback. Fumble.
Yeah, that was
Squires.
That was the tackler came in and did a nice job because he hit the ball carrier right on his arm that he had the ball in. That's what caused the fumble. So it was a good play by the defensive player there. The running back from what happened there?
Is there a penalty?
I don't know why York Tech still has the ball. He fumbled it.
Now that's the end of the the third quarter. Delone Catholic 48, York Tech nothing.
Between you and me, I think they missed one because that ball was out before he hit the ground. But the score is a score. So
yeah, we're not going to go to the replay on this one.
No,
our cameras aren't that good.
Well, it's just it is whatever. But the ball was definitely out before he was down.
And talking about that, I mean, I know a lot of people have weighed in on this, and obviously, technology being what it is, replay is here to stay. But how do you think that has changed the game, or do you think it's changed the game?
Well, in some cases, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't think that you have the capability of high school doing that, because a school like Delone does not have the the finances to be able to put a camera down on the field for the referee to view it. The other thing I don't appreciate is it does slow the game down. The game is slow enough as it is. They don't need to slow it down more. But I do like the idea. It does correct a lot of mistakes. So I mean, there's good and bad to it,
Sure.
but I don't see it coming to high schools because, I mean, schools like Delone, Fairfield, the smaller schools, they don't have the finances to go into all that equipment.
Well, even so, I can't imagine that being something that taxpayers in the larger school districts are real interested in financing either. I mean, it's just not something that I think anybody wants. But I think officiating is a thankless job when you're doing it to the naked eye. I mean, you couldn't pay me enough to be an official at a level where that technology exists. I had a hard enough time being an umpire back on Fairview Avenue for the 7 and 8 year olds.
Well, when you're dealing with instant replay, you cannot have thin skin. Sometimes you have to admit you were wrong. That's all. And if you can't do that, you'll be out of officiating real quick. Yeah, games like this are very difficult to call because there's if you look, there's part of the crowd's already gone. It's kind of a one-sided thing here. You can see Delone's not even attempting to run the ball back.
It's actually a better crowd than you might expect in, the early fourth quarter. This is what, actually, when I was in sports information, one of my bosses always called it. It's usually the bad weather games, particularly, one of those
well, you have
early April games where it's 43 degrees and rain, and he called it the parents and girlfriends games because there was nobody else there.
What you have right now, you have a lot of parents sticking around whose kids are, maybe second team, third team. They're going to get a chance to play, so the parents are sticking around to see their kids get in the game.
Well, sure. And
so you have that, and you have grandparents who are doing that, and aunts and uncles, and so you have people sticking around. But some of the hard-nosed people, they're gone already. Maybe didn't even come to the game.
Well,
so
part of that too is it's amazing. At the risk of sounding really old, looking back on it now, it's amazing how fast that time goes, and just trying to appreciate it for what it is.
I think these are freshmen here. Some of these kids are freshmen.
Nate Hart. That's a name that a lot of people that have watched Squires football here for the last 5 or 6 years will recognize. His older brothers, Zach and Ryan, key contributors to the last handful of Squires teams, and now as a sophomore, he's out there getting a couple of carries here in a runaway game.
And this is very valuable experience for these younger kids to get out and play under the lights on a Friday night. That's a big deal.
Yeah. I remember you used to always tell us you work hard all week and Friday's payday.
That's right. That's basically what it amounts to.
It looks like the ball's out again. And a penalty flag on the play. Oh, was it a beanbag? Okay.
So, the one thing I really disagree with what's going on with high school football in that, these people are not having freshman football. That to me, it hurts. It hurts your teams. First of all, freshman football develops the unity of a class, and that's what you're not getting anymore. When you had freshman football, that class had to depend upon itself to win or lose those games, and that's not occurring anymore. And too many times, the freshmen on teams right now, they're getting very little playing experience. What can happen? A kid can lose interest and he's not playing football anymore. So I think that's just not a good situation.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases it's an unavoidable number.
Yeah, I know.
Right, but you're right. It's very unfortunate. We've talked about that a lot over the last couple of years. You know, it's one thing to come in after you've played as a freshman, you've been in that, you've got game experience, to come in here to this level as a sophomore and know that unless you're one of the high-end athletes, you're probably going to get your brains beaten in by guys 2 years older than you for a couple of years. But you can deal with that for 1 year. It's a lot harder when you're a freshman.
And it happens for 2 years.
It
goes on for 2 years. And that's not that's what I really disagree with. I mean, if I was the athletic director, I'd do everything I could to get freshman games and just, keep the freshman interest there. That's, I think, is a very important thing. I know it's tough, and there's teams that don't have the amount of players.
There's a big run off the other side into Tate Needler. There's a guy that we've called his name a lot tonight. He's going to end up with some, I don't know if they'll be gaudy stats, but they'll be pretty impressive stats for a guy that didn't start this game.
Showed good quickness there. He got outside. He outran the defense to the outside and made a nice run out of that. Picked up the first down, almost broke it for a touchdown.
7.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Squires up 48-0 over York Tech. You're watching DCBN. Eric Lawrence and Denny Frew with you. Here as the Squires get the league season started. That give is to Zach Field. He gains about 5. The Squires, certainly these guys on the field relishing the opportunity, but the starters over here on the sidelines, rooting on their younger teammates, but you got to think they're probably in their mind switching gears a little bit to the Crosstown rivalry, a big game next weekend, Friday night up at Littlestown, Memorial Field. I haven't seen a score lately, but they were up on York Catholic early, so very possibly 2 4-0 teams. 19-13 is the York Catholic's up 19-13. What do I know?
Well, that's interesting.
Good run.
That is very interesting.
Maybe I wrote on York Catholic a little before I should have. 19-13 York Catholic in the third or fourth? Third quarter. Yeah, they're probably not as far along as we have because they haven't had a running clock for the last quarter and a half.
That's interesting though, because
that,
if you look at the comparison between York Catholic and Trinity, that was a fairly close ball game. That was what, 19-6 or something like
something
that.
like that. Well, and York Catholic scored a touchdown late against York Suburban to win that game, 21-14 too. So, in what I have read about, observations about York Catholic, it seems that they're pretty stout on defense. So, that maybe they're not quite as strong on offense, but don't have to be.
In most cases, you got to have both sides of the ball. That type of thing. So you got to, because you're going to run into somebody who's going to be strong on the side where you're weak.
Right. That's a matchup that we'll see. Will be the last road game in the regular season toward the end of October before I'm back here for Hanover. That's Michael O'Brien.
Now, there was a fine example right there of having eyes, because they ran the buck sweep. The hole opened up inside, and that's where he went. That's a sign of a good running back. He's looking from the inside out. And as soon as that hole opens up, you hit the hole. You don't wait for one further out to hit, because it may not open. So when you see the hole, you hit the hole and go.
4.5 minutes to go here in the fourth quarter. Handoff tries to bounce it outside a little bit after meeting some resistance in the middle.
These kids have put together a pretty nice drive here. They're moving the ball very well. They're running just the base offense. They're running their buck sweep. They're running the trap. They're running, a little bit of lead play, and doing a very nice job in executing.
And as a coach, you have to like to see that these guys getting their opportunity and making the most of it too.
Now here's something that they're not picking up. He's got an unbalanced line here.
And that give is to Dylan Staub.
See what he had the split end and the tight end to the same side of the field, so he had an unbalanced line. There was no split end to this side, so the man on the end of the line over here was the tackle. So they were unbalanced with what went on. I think the running back that time turned it up too soon. If he'd have held a little bit longer and went outside, there was a big play to be had.
No, in a case like that, with the tackle being uncovered, he has to report in as eligible, right?
Well, Delone wasn't going to throw the ball.
Well, I understand that, but
he's ineligible. You have to have an eligible number on to play to be eligible. That's what I'm talking about there.
There's the touchdown. 6 yards for Tate Needler. That's his second touchdown of the night.
And that was your buck sweep play right there. Did a nice job. He made a nice little inside move that held the defense and then took it back outside, which is signs of a very nice running back. He's able to set a lot of his blocks that way. Somebody else going to kick?
Is that 22 again?
Yeah.
He kicked the last one.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. But yeah, it is the third kicker who's attempted an extra point tonight, which is something you don't see very often. And that one is going to be good. So with 3:03 to go in the fourth quarter, Delone Catholic 55, York Tech nothing, and there's that season average, 55 points.
There you are. It's a, but then, it's still impressive. You look at these kids from York Cap, they're hustling, they're getting set up, they haven't quit.
No.
And that's no matter what the score is, they're playing hard. And that's a good thing. You like to see that. I've always had a lot of respect for the kids from York Tech because it's a difficult situation they're under.
They'll be back on. This is actually the end of a season opening 4-game road trip for them, so that's not an easy thing for them to do either. They'll be home next Saturday against Hanover. Short kick dropped.
Good coverage.
Cover
team got down and covered it very well, so that was good. Yeah, that's tough. It's tough for a high school team to be playing their first 4 games on the road. That's a tough situation.
In a game like this, how hard is it when you start running, the second or the JV special teams? Does that make things? I mean, is that harder to do than the offense?
That's scary because they don't get a lot of practice time. Because it's usually your first and second teams that you're working with your special teams. When you're getting down to your third and fourth, they don't get a lot of special team practice.
Another no gain, short gain, yard or two for York Tech.
You like to see that because the people are playing their gap. They're playing their gaps. They're playing controlled defense, and that's good for kids this age. They're doing a good job. Because these kids will probably play again against each other for JVs.
Handoff. The progress of that play blown up in the backfield. The first guy didn't make the tackle, but turned it back in and nowhere to go.
Yeah. So, like I say, these kids will probably play again when the JVs get together, and they'll have at least an idea, who they're playing against and that type of thing.
The quarterback's going to keep it this time, and he picks up a couple.
Sometimes these kids from York Catholic, I was watching one of the offensive linemen, and he solved his problems as far as blocking his man. He just tackled him. He just tackled him.
Well, it's good work if you can get away with it.
Yeah.
Have an injured Spartan on the play. Won't have a whole lot of way in recap or post game tonight. We've kind of been recapping this one since halfway through the first quarter, but we've got some scores from out of town. York High up 57-14 over New Oxford in the third. That was within 2 touchdowns in the first half the last time we looked and got out of hand the way it looked. York Catholic still up 19-13 over Littlestown in the third. Red Lion 35, Central York 21 in the fourth. York Suburban 42, Eastern York 7, so that'll help the Squires with their power points. Hopefully a win there by an opponent. Bermudian Springs 41, Hanover nothing. Fairfield and Biglerville tied 14 in the fourth quarter. And the only final so far, Dover 28, Susquehannock 7. A high floating snap. Corral kicked away. Nice punt. Turned over, and it's going to roll a long way. Squires have the ball first down and 10 at the 30. Figured they'll probably kneel on it twice, maybe 3 times, and send this one home. And
that's about what we have left. You only have 106 left in the game, so it's drawn to a very quick closing here. It'll give some of these young kids a little bit more experience, and that's good. Always good.
Squires looking to close out their 4th shutout in the last 6 games, dating back to the end of last season.
But even though Littlestown's not coming out maybe on the short end here, it still is going to be a good test for them next week, because Littlestown is a well-coached team.
Well, the other thing that does is it introduces a level of desperation maybe for them, because early in the season they don't want to go to 2 losses in the league.
That's right.
It really kind of puts them in a bad spot as far as
you're not going to have Littlestown come in on a low note. They're going to come in high, with what goes on. It's going to be a good ball game. It always is. Anytime you have rivalry games, they're not predictable.
No,
they're really not. I mean, it's a situation that for some strange reason it seems like the underdog has an advantage. So there we have the end there.
That's going to be the last play of the game. They're going to let it tick off here, and the Squires are going to end this one up 55-0 over York Tech. Not a lot to be said about this one that hasn't already been said. Just want to remind everybody that we'll be back here in 2 weeks for homecoming. Tony Weaver will be back in the booth, and it looks like Coach Drew, usually my replacement, has a family obligation, so we're going to bring in an unknown face and voice that I don't know if that one's ironed out yet, so we're not going to announce it, but I'm kind of excited about that crew. That'll be homecoming. We'll be on the air at 6:15 to catch the homecoming activities, the crowning of the homecoming king and queen. And want to encourage everybody to check out the full slate of homecoming activities at DeloneCatholic.org, and also check DeloneCatholic.org and the Facebook page for the games and other sports that we'll be covering, the senior nights for those sports. But, Coach, it's been a tough one to try to figure out and fill the airtime, but it really I've appreciated you being here and enjoyed the opportunity to work with you tonight.
I always enjoy coming back and being part of the games and this type of thing, announcing them. I hope I do okay with everything and don't hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that. But it's always fun to come back and talk football and talk Delone football. So enjoy that.
It was an exciting night, and that's going to do it for us here from JT Flaherty Field tonight with the final score: Delone Catholic 55, York Tech nothing. Remind you to tune in 2 weeks at 6:15 on September 28th. We'll be on the air for the homecoming game against Biglerville. For Bill Smith, Coach Denny Frew, I'm Eric Lawrence. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great weekend.